Hello, everyone. Let's see. I forgot to press record on the Skype or the Zoom rather, and didn't realize it till the end of class. So now I'm going to record. Uh, I see that one, and there's some on the lost and found. All right, so I'm going to record this video, just like quarantine style. We started the class by going over the chapter 21 vocabulary on Quizlet. Since you guys are going to be quizzed on that on Thursday, I guess you all will actually be quizzed on Friday. But I'm noticing that vocab is a huge issue. It seems like it's a bigger issue than grammar right now. So I really need you guys to make sure you're kind of staying on top of that. Maybe having a part of your notes dedicated to writing down vocabulary words you come across that you're supposed to know by now that you don't know. Because I don't know about you for computer kids plus the e-learners who are going to watch this, but the kids in the Latin 2.5 class, we're just really having a hard time with vocab. So at the very least, we can, from here on out, from chapter 20 on, make sure we're learning this vocab really well. But I think it's that stretch from chapter 15 to 20 that we're struggling with. So I'll start drilling that in coming days. But we went through this sentence yesterday. The one thing in this sentence that was really important is that causa, when it's in the ablative, it's usually going to be cause or case. But in the ablative like this, it's going to actually be for the sake of, which is a very specific translation. And it's going to go with a genitive. And even though genitives are usually after the noun they are possessive of or going with, these are actually before. So that's kind of a weird way to start the sentence. It's for the sake of the common health or safety. And then we had a dropped subject. We went all the way to the end for EU. Said he commanded those conspirators to depart, discatera is our infinitive, to depart from the city and be led, passive infinitive of duco ducera, across the river to the mountains. All right. I think we just did 5 spot translations in class, so I'm going to go through those now. We won't be able to simulate kids answering questions, but it was mostly me asking kids what things were and them not knowing. So it's probably not the worst thing that we don't have that. There's a bell. So alii actores coiperunt spiritus nostros contra iudicium atque argumenta senatus iterum moe requod omnes metu nova teriti errant. So I asked kids, what do you think could be the subject here? And somebody said alii actores looks pretty subjecty. Actores, since it's third declension, it could technically be accusative plural, but alii is just good old second declension. So that the only thing they can both be is nominative. So that's going to be our subject. So most kids didn't know alias. So alias means other. You should write that down right now if you didn't know that. Truly, every time you hear me talk about what a word means and you didn't know what it meant, you should write it down. That's the only way you're going to maybe remember these words going forward. So other authors, right? I think most people know auctor, auctorus is author, I think. So other authors, and then we have a verb right there. That's kind of nice. Coiperunt, it means began. It's from coipi, coipise. It is always perfect tense, or it could be pluperfect or future perfect. This is just good old perfect as erunt. That's the kind of odd third plural perfect ending. So other authors began, and then I ask kids what does began take? Does it take a direct object? Began a direct? That'd be weird. Maybe in some cases, but it might take a complementary infinitive. And our complementary infinitive is buried. You got to skip over a lot of stuff to get to it. And that would be movere. So other authors began to move. I know we know what movere means. Move. Began to move. And then it's what are we going to move? Probably a direct object. So what could our direct object be? Maybe it's spiritus nostros. Spiritus is fourth declension. It could be nominative plural or accusative plural or genitive singular. But since it's right next to nostros, I think that's pretty safely going to be our direct object. So they began to move our spirits. That should be vocab easy, or easy vocab-wise. Contra is against. They moved our spirits against an accusative, and that accusative looks like it's going to be eudicium, against the judgment and arguments. That should be easy too. So both of those judgment and arguments are the object of contra. And then senatus. So now we just had a US, we decided an accusative US on spiritus. This long US, I think, since we already have an accusative, we've already had a subject, maybe it's genitive. So it's against the judgment and the arguments of the Senate. So there we go. It took a while to get some case color coding going on. But yes, once again, other authors began to move our spirits against the judgment and the arguments of the Senate. Remember, atque is basically just and. You can translate it as like and also or and even, but you can totally just get away with translating it as and. So don't get caught up on atque. It's just and. It's just a special et. As well as ak. If you see just ac, atque and ak are basically the same thing. Okay, iterum is a new adverb. So if y'all want to pause this and go do the Quizlet for the chapter 21 vocab words, that might help a little bit. Iterum is a new word. It means again. We get words like iterate from it. So again, this happened. And then I asked the kids, is this quote going to be like qui qui quad, where it is which or that, or is it the conjunction because? And it looks like it's just going to be because. Yeah. For one thing, the antecedent would be clear if it was a relative clause. I don't know if it'd be like telling us more about the arguments or the Senate, but if it can be because, that's going to be the easiest thing it could be, so you might want to try that when you see quad. So because, and then omnes, maybe that's our new subject. Maybe we have like a new kind of grammatical slate here, so we need a new subject. So because everyone, or all, and then I asked them, what is the verb here? And some people thought like it was just errant. It's actually tereti errant, from tereo tereri. And is that perfect passive or pluperfect passive? Because it's definitely one of them, right? The only verbs we have that show up in two chunks like that are perfect passive, pluperfect passive, or future perfect passive. This guy, because it's errant, it is pluperfect passive. So it's because everyone was terrified or has been terrified. Or I'm sorry, had. Because it's pluperfect, it's going to be had. So because all had been terrified by metunovo, by a new fear, ablative of means. Yep, metunovo go together, ablative means. All right, we got a few more. Omnia genera servatutis nobis videtur aspera. This one's pretty straightforward. What could our subject be? Maybe it's just omnia genera. We saw omnes as a subject at the end of this sentence. It was just like all or everyone. Here we have a neuter ending, plural, to go with genus generis, because genus generis apparently is neuter. I'm just kind of like realizing that now by looking at the ending. Genus generis means origin or types or kinds. For us, usually it's been kinds or types. So maybe like every kind or all types. And then what case is servatutis? I asked someone in class, like, what case is it if it comes from servatus, servatutis? And if I'm saying it like that, that means the second form I'm saying, that's a genitive. It's got to be genitive, right? If I say it comes from servatus, servatutis, that second form in a noun's dictionary entry, that's the genitive. Just like genus generis. Generis is the genitive of genus, etc. And then nobis, that's actually, it's not green. Ignore that it's green right now. I forgot to fix that. Videtur, I ask kids like, what voice is that? And hopefully they or y'all would say passive. So it's not that all types of servitude see something. That would sound crazy. It's that they seem or are seen as. So remember, videor, videiri, etc. can be to be seen. But what's often better for videor, videiri, the passive version of video, videiri, is just seem. If you think about it, like to be seen is almost the same as the word seem. It's just that seem is just one word. So you might want to just go with that one. All kinds of servitude seem harsh to us. Seem harsh to us. Aspera. This nobis is kind of weird here. It's not an ablative agent. That would make sense. It's not like they seem harsh by us. That'd be weird. So it's this dative of respect that we have barely seen before. Yeah. Okay. And now we did, let's see, how many of these did we did? We did 3 of these. So this is what comes after what y'all's homework is. So we're going to do 7, 8, 9 real quick. Quis ex montibus Graeciae infines Troiae contra hostes asperos mititor. This one's not too bad. Chicken Boy is telling us that quis is more likely to be who than it is what or which, because quis is when it is masculine or feminine. It's probably asking about a person rather than like quid, Quai or quad, which could be asking about a thing. So who, and then let's just skip what eventually we're going to realize is just 3 prepositional phrases in a row. It's one of those kinds of sentences. And look at the verb at the end, mitator. Mitator, is it active or passive? Hopefully a kid would say it is passive. And I'd say, okay, well, remember what this chapter is about, these third and fourth conjugation verbs, and how their future ending is kind of weird. It's kind of hard to like separate it from the present tense. And if you think of mitomitera, that's third conjugation. So is this present passive or future passive? And the answer is that it is future. That E is the giveaway there. It's that E right there on that chart, as opposed to the present passive of mitomitera would just be mititor with like an I, not an E. Mititor. Okay, so it's future passive. So it's not going to be who will send, that would be active, but who will be sent. Remember, you really got to use your helping verbs in the right way to make verbs passive. Who will be verbed, who will be sent. And then the rest of this is pretty easy. Who will be sent ex montibus from the mountains, Graecae, of Greece, in Fines Troiae. Fines is accusative, so it's not going to be in the limits or the boundaries, but into the boundaries of Troy. Against harsh enemies. So we actually have 2 accusative taking prepositions within and contra. That's why it's into and that's or toward the boundaries. Into or toward, either way, against the harsh enemies. All right, not too bad. That one should have been the easiest one so far, probably. Salutis communis causa naves ilias gentis rapi e serunt. This one reuses the first 3 words of the sentence we looked at the beginning of this video. So once again, it's for the common health. A genitive next to an ablative, and causa's ablative, it's for the sake of common health. And then naves might be our subject, maybe. So for the sake of the common health, ships, right? Remember, naves is, it's not sailors, that's nauta. This is what sailors use. Well, let's see. The thing we came across in class is like, is naves our subject or our direct object? It's kind of hard to tell. It could be either. I hope y'all know that this third declension ending is nominative plural and accusative plural. So let's try it as though we have a dropped subject for now. The dropped subject would be they, since our verb at the end is third person plural. And this verb is kind of new. It's from eubeo, eubeiri. It means to command. And to command takes both a direct object and an infinitive. Interesting. So for the sake of the common health, they commanded, it's perfect tense because it's from eubeo, eubeiri, commanded the ships, if it's the direct object, of those clans. Ilias and Gentis are both genitive. Hopefully y'all remember that pronouns often get this ius ending in their genitive singular. So the ships of those clans, they commanded them to be captured. So rapio, Chicken Boy's telling us it means to capture, but this is the passive infinitive. Remember, for these third and fourth conjugation verbs, their passive infinitive form it's like really tiny. It's like you take the first syllable of it and then you just have a long I at the end. That's it. You might get it confused with first person singular perfect sometimes, but hopefully you don't. It's just to be verbed. So in this case, it's to be captured. So yeah, it turns out that naves was the direct object. They commanded the direct object to be verbed. So be careful with command. It takes, like I said, both a direct object and a infinitive. All right, last one. Fuerunt paucae fenestrae in cassis Volgi Romani quod eo tempora cives miseri pecunia caruerunt. Fenestra is a new vocabulary, means window. And then I was like, fuerunt, what verb is that? What's that from? And some kids remember this is from sum esse fui, futorum, to be. So that's just the perfect third person plural of to be. So it's like something like they have been or were. Were is fine, actually. For like fui is I was or I have been, but was is great. Fuisti is you were or you have been, and so on and so forth. So it's something. It's got a third person plural subject, and it's one of those weird ones where it looks like the subject is actually after the verb. So you can start this in a few ways. You could say there were paucae fenestrae, few windows, or you can say like few windows were in Cassis Volgi Romani. What is Cassis Volgi Romani? By the way, I'm just now saying this as we get to the very last translation, but y'all can like be pausing and stuff if you're trying to like sort through these on your own. But Volgi Romani is maybe they're both genitive, right? And so that vulgus means common people or like the mob, and Romanus just means Roman. So it's like common Roman people, but it's in the houses of common Roman people. So casa is house. So few windows were in the house of common Romans. I think this is better than there were few windows in the common. I mean, in the house of common Romans. But either is okay. And then quote once again, quote is just gonna be because here, because eo tempora means dot 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 at that time. And then kiwes miseri. Could those be our subjects? They don't look like they're the same case, number, and gender, but they actually are. They're both nominative singular or nominative plural, masculine technically, or masculine and feminine. Just they're not neuter. So at that time, wretched citizens caraway runt, and I put caray. I typed it onto the screen because it was a word that nobody in class could remember, and we've seen it. I feel like we've seen it a good bit in the past weeks. So that brings me full circle to complaining about y'all needing to learn your vocab better. But careo means to lack. So at that time, the wretched citizens or unfortunate citizens lacked. That's perfect tense because it's obviously coming from the third principal part, karui. Lacked what? They lacked money. It's an ablative of separation. Yeah. All right. And we didn't get to this one. Y'all can do it if you want, though. You can do that one, too. Yep. All right. This obviously wasn't 40 minutes, so y'all can work on your homework for the rest of class. And y'all like drill vocab, honestly. Just like go to Quizlet and like type a random chapter. Starting around like 15 maybe. I think around 15 is where we start to kind of lose track of a lot of words. All right, signing off.